if someone polls nationally, I think they should be on the stage.
Of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
I am Dave, and with me, as always, I hope, is Ryan, and this is December 1773. How many 70s did I jump in there? I think I did too many 70s. Welcome aboard, and today we are doing our weekly show, and this is Storm at the Mailbox. Before we jump into the show, stickers. Send us this is, by the way, we are not selling stickers. But
we're not a business.
Not a business. But for people who donate $3, you will receive a gift sticker, which is our logo, or in the future to be other objects. But these
high
are
quality,
very average quality stickers. We're working with what we got. Also, watching on Facebook, and follow the Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, like and follow us on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. I don't care what combination of things you do, just like us and follow us on all the things. And you can comment. You can share. There's all types of stuff you can do on Facebook. It's wild. So
if you like the video, share the video.
That is a classic line, by the way. How far back are we going on that? You had that line since before December 1773 existed, I think. Has it been that long? We came out in 16 officially.
16 officially? Okay. I've been doing videos a little bit before that. I started early in 16.
I think your videos predate December 1773. You are a legend.
Legendary broadcaster. Yeah, if you like the video, share the video. That's always my tagline, so I think we got to roll it over into this.
It's a no-brainer. You have to use that tagline. It's a great one.
Storm at the Mailbox, my friend. So I got an article I wanted to touch base on. The postmaster is cleaning house over at United States Postal Service, apparently.
Should be.
I don't know if they weren't happy about how they handled the mail, but they fired 2 people and replaced them.
Like 2 high-ranking officials at USPS?
Yep, they're trying to change up management over there in the mail service. So I'm wondering if they're greasing the skids for this election to really go all mail-in voting.
So 2 things about that. One, in the private sector, if you ran UPS the way you ran USPS, you would have been fired also because they lose $16 billion a year. That's a lot of money. With that said, with everything going on, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the reason.
There's a couple of sides of that debate, right? You could have the one I've seen a lot, at least in my circle that I'm associated with. Everybody talks about how if we can go to Walmart, we can go to the voting booths. And then the other side that I've seen that's very big is, well, we do all these other things in the mail, right? You do your taxes, you have confidential paperwork, we mail things all over the globe, Social Security information, life licenses, bank account information. We do already so much through the mail. Why can't we do voting? It's never been done at a mass scale. You've never tried to collect 300 million votes. Here in New York State,
well, to be fair,
85,000 ballots got tossed out for whatever reason. And I'm not saying the system couldn't handle it or the logistics would work out. I think it's, I don't want to say it sounds dangerous, but it would be a highly expedited process, and I don't think it would be the most well thought out way.
Sure. So to be fair to one of your points, I think the average election you probably get about around 100 million votes. With that said, that's a large amount of people who are casting mail-in ballots. So there's a couple issues. We've already seen fraud in smaller scales at like local elections, like you were talking about. We've seen fraud at those scales already. It's been proven and documented. So why would we jump into a system where 100 million people could potentially have fraudulent, either missing votes or incorrect votes? What was the one guy, he got mailed, how many voter registration cards did he get mailed, or voter ballots did he get mailed? I mean, he got multiple ballots, and I'm not saying somebody would necessarily fill them all out and send them back in, but how do you, I don't know, there's a lot to it that I think you would have to work out before you even thought about doing something like mail-in voting.
Yeah, maybe if we thought about it, maybe if we think about it from this entire election to the next election, like another 4 years, like really develop a good strategy. Yeah, but we're talking about the government hobbling things together on its last leg in a few months' time to do a third of the country's population. I don't know, man.
I think there's got to be a clear reason why they're pushing for it so hard. Let's look at it this way. How old has the USPS been around? And just now we're thinking, hey, I wonder if we can mail in votes.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's been found. I believe it became a thing before the country was officially founded. Even
it's in the Constitution. It's one of the few things the federal government is supposed to do is provide a mail service.
It's literally to deliver us pieces of paper.
You know what? Good job, government. You know what you can do? This is how small they wanted the government, by the way. You can protect our rights, which we're going to list for you, and then you can deliver us mail. And that's what you can handle. That's going to be it. We'll do the rest.
$60 billion a year.
They lose. I think. Well, this last time I checked, I haven't even kept up. This is an old statistic. They lost $16 billion a year delivering mail. USPS is a viable private company. FedEx is a viable private company. DHL. There's delivery services all over the place. There's competition and delivery services.
It's corrupt capitalists, greedy capitalists.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So yeah, it makes me wonder too, because another talking point people are for is because they think it would increase voter turnout. Now, in theory, it could, right? Be hard to really know.
Of course it could.
But I want to pose this question to you. Do you think voting should be the path of least resistance? Do you think like voting on a smartphone or voting via mail? Because I think there's something to the people that go out of their way in the day to go and vote are more likely inclined to care about the people and the issues and what's at stake because you have an invested interest of time.
So that's an interesting question. I think, and this wasn't really your question, but I'm going to answer this anyway. I think it's a matter of time before we have smartphone voting. And then we could jump back into that. But to answer your question, my views on voting, I think it should, if anything, it should be harder to vote. And I know that sounds like crazy to some people listening. Like, what are you talking about? It should be the easiest thing in the world. I think it should be harder to vote. I think you should have some stake in the game. I don't think it should just be anybody who is breathing over the age of 18. In some cases, it's dead people. They're not even breathing. I think it should be difficult. I think the people who vote should matter, and not that all people don't matter. But when we're voting for officials who are going to be running people's lives, and you're just 18 years old, you exist, you want free college, what are you providing right now? You don't have property in some cases. You're not paying taxes in some cases. I mean, should there be some requirements to voting other than 18 and breathing?
It's weird. I don't think we'll ever go back, right? We're not going to.
We're not going back. It's not
add blocks into making voting harder. But yeah, it really makes you wonder.
We can't even get voter ID laws passed.
Yeah.
All that is you have to prove who you are.
So yeah, voting. We're both kind of in agreement that maybe there should be a little resistance when it comes to casting your ballot for somebody. Now, I'm not calling for a voter test because, I don't think anybody could handle that. But Yeah, it is amazing how they want to streamline this process to voting, and they don't care if it, may sacrifice the integrity of that ballot. But something that you kind of hit on was young people wanting free college, right? Because they're not in the world, they're not really learning life experience. They've been put in these institutions that have put a bubble around them, so they have a bias skew. I saw a news report that was talking about how Sanders supporters won't vote blue unless Medicare for all is part of the Democratic policy for the election. So it got my gears turned. I was kind of... Now, that's always been a thing for Bernie. He's always ran on the fact that healthcare is a human right. And he always believed that was going to get him the young vote and probably some older people voting. And then when the rubber meets the road about dealing with a lot of things, there's a lot. I don't know why there's a lot of resistance, because you would think with a talking point that voting is, healthcare is a human right, that it would be an easy decision for a lot of people. But it gets, there's plenty of reason to not want it. I don't plan on going over those in the videos. In this video, I was more touching on the fact that it seems that the mob rule is moving the political needle heavily on that Democratic side, with the stuff with BLM and police brutality and things. We can say a lot about bad police officing and videos and the encounters you've had with cops, but a large portion of people make it home after those encounters with police. And the whole systemic racism, that it's a top-down approach, that everything is racist, all institutions in America are racist. These are like highly, highly polarizing points of view, and they are mainline on the front of the package of the Democratic tickets. Some of these progressive extremists like AOC and stuff, Johan Omar, people like that. Bernie, to some degree, is a radical. He's not so...
He's pretty radical. He's pretty radical.
Pretty radical, but he got screwed out of that nomination for twice for some reason.
His views are extremely radical, and then he comes off as he's just some old guy. He's whatever. He's not that. He's extremely radical.
He's not threatening at all.
Not out of office, no.
There was another article I saw that Bernie Sanders was a supporter of. It was called "The Billionaires Paid Their Fair Share." I
wanted to bring that up. It would cost Jeff Bezos $42 billion. Elon Musk would have to pay like $23 billion.
Yeah, the billionaires must pay Bill. They're you were going over the numbers if you want to retouch on those.
So from what I saw, Jeff Bezos would have to pay somewhere in the ballpark of $42 billion. Elon Musk would have to pay like $23 billion or something. I mean, it's just, these numbers are astounding to think about.
So and it's going to go to what? A bloated bureaucracy that can't handle some of the simplest tasks.
Sure, like delivering mail.
This corrupt institution, basically, not saying that the government needs to be torn down, but we need less corruption. It needs to be smaller. It needs to do less. It needs to have a balance. But like, some of these things would remove a great deal of that corruption and all that influence that mistities up that whole area of the world in D.C. down there.
And let's talk about how effective that would be regardless. I mean, the amount of money generated. Elon Musk's portion of the billionaire tax, or whatever you want to call it, it wouldn't fund the mail service for 2 years. So what are we...
Just the mail service.
Right, what are we doing here? Really?
Yeah, and that guy, he could be investing it in... I mean, he's an American manufacturer.
He is now.
He makes his car in America.
Yes, California, and soon to be Texas.
Like, this guy, we should be giving him money to invest in our economy and boost our tax base through making wealth through people, not taking more from the people that have money. It just seems like there's a heavy level of envy on one side of the aisle when it comes to wealth than the other. And then they shame the one other side by saying they're immoral, or that they just want people to fail and they're this, and this emotion is driving one side of this political needle. And that's that mob rule mentality that has been mainlined by these progressives. It's dangerous, man.
Yeah. And ironically, they use the term greed. It's greedy.
It's greedy to have the headache to run 37 different businesses and give people an income.
It's greedy.
It's the highest form of charity.
Taking $23 billion from them is not greedy, for the record, but it's extremely greedy to allow them to produce for the country.
Yeah, the highest form of charity is being able to employ somebody. You're literally getting them out of poverty. You pay them so they can make a living and afford their lifestyle. That's the highest form of charity there is.
Absolutely.
Giving people skills, information, education, time in a field, like all the things that come with working long term anywhere. Personal skills, social skills, everything.
If you gave a poor person $100, how long do you think it would last?
The day.
The day?
The day.
We just posted about this on the page, December 1773. Like us and follow. About the
nice plug.
Plugging ourselves on our own page. But we just posted about this, about the unemployment, the extra $600 that was given to people. Andrew Yang, when he was running for the DNC, wanted universal basic income of $1,000 a month. And I remember thinking, like, that's wasted money. We're right now giving $2,400 extra a month to people who are unemployed. Have you?
Yeah,
seen,
and they're complaining about losing it.
Right, of course, because
even though job numbers they created 1.8 million jobs were created in June. Just in 1 month, 1.8 million people went back to work. Do we need that 600 extra? How many more jobs are out there?
A lot, I would think.
Also, what jobs are closing? You know, like that's also the other side of that coin. There is like, the economic fallout of some of these businesses.
Who knows if we're jumping back? I mean, I don't know. I didn't call the first time, but I can't imagine if we're shutting down. I don't think we're going to shut down again. But maybe, I don't know. Maybe we do. What happens then? I mean, at what point do we stop this?
Yeah, I mean, we got to a 14.7 unemployment rate, and that's with the crappy numbers that they use over at the unemployment office.
They are pretty awful numbers. For people who don't know, if you aren't looking for work, or if you're out of work for a certain amount of time, you don't count in the unemployment rate.
Yeah, so it's an artificial number, and we base most of our funding
it's totally made up.
Yeah, all the political gravitas that happens through both sides of the government being like, yeah, unemployment's this one. It's actually maybe not much higher, but there's definitely an inflated number that is not being reported because...
I want to talk about, I don't know if it was when Trump was running for president. I know it was before he was elected. He was talking about how inflated the unemployment numbers are.
Yep, and then when he gets in office, he uses the same exact
He jumps right to the same number. Look at me. Look at this unemployment rate, the lowest in history. Well, okay, but can we talk about the people who are out of work?
Yeah, like what about the extra 2% of unemployment that's not accounted for every month? You know, but it is a good thing, not to squash anything, but 1.8 million jobs is 1.8 million jobs. Give people an income, get off the government finances. I mean, it's incredible. Like, and it's funny. Like, we kind of brought up a little bit that it's funny. The first stimulus check and the HEROES Act, or whatever they called it, it was stuffed with all the bluff for corporate bailouts and stuff. That was passed expeditiously.
The best kind of pork is corporate pork.
Yeah, that wild hog, you know. And this stimulus check, because they were talking about another $1,000 or $1,200, and then the dependents for children, the unemployment numbers, extending the ability to not get evicted. There was a lot of things in this bill that the Democrats and Republicans couldn't nail down, and they're still not at a deal. You know,
No.
And it's crazy how long it's taken, the amount of politics that are play. It's showing their hand for all these lobbyists, all these special interest groups trying to get the next nick. And Trump came out today, I believe, and was using executive action to have $400 a month unemployment continue, even though they didn't reach a stimulus package.
Kevin said on our group chat that the Democrats were thinking of going after that executive order. Is there anything the Democratic Party could do that's more political suicide than shutting that down?
I don't understand. You know, and I was going to say that about Trump, that like Trump doing it is a political stunt. Obviously, the election's less than I mean, what's the ticker now? Well, that's under 3 months, under 100 days here.
90-something days, yeah.
Yeah, under 100 days here, the home stretch. This is that quarter-mile drag strip right now of politics. And Trump's batting politics. He's being the good politician that he is, and trying to make it seem like he's for the people more so than the other candidate. Now that, because he's got the political power, he's wielding the pen and the phone.
I was going to say, he does. He has a weird upper hand right now by being the incumbent. Biden can't do anything about this. But Trump
their
can
strategy is to keep him out of the spotlight because he keeps putting his foot in his mouth. He had that cocaine comment last week about he was asked about his cognitive ability, and he just basically flipped out at the reporter and asked about if they were drug testing people. And the guy is very odd. Obviously, something's going on. And you see all these articles, mainstream sources talking about how the VP pick for Biden could be the most important historical pick in history. And they're basically all hinting at that this guy is not going to be president for 4 years, let alone 8 years.
Well, can we talk about who the pick's going to be? Because I think it's going to be
Kamala Harris.
Absolutely. I think it's already a done deal. Good timing on the drink.
It's going to be Harris. And
I think it's a no-brainer. It's going to be.
Tore her apart during the debates, and I don't know how they're going to pick that woman, especially all this talk about police brutality and everything. That woman made people stay in jail so that they could work, so that they could do cheap government labor.
She's an interesting pick right now. In all the anti-police rhetoric, she is a weird pick. Her and Biden are weird picks.
Yeah, he's got to defend his crime bill thing, which he keeps folding on, even though statistically it helped with crime rates in all these cities.
Sure. In any other election year, I think he would be bragging about that.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder, my question now is like, okay, because there's something to be said about nonviolent crime and what should be done with it. And even at some point, legalization of drugs or what we should do with the war on drugs and everything. So I wonder if there was no war on drugs, but there was still the tough on crimes bill, what would the opinions be right now? You know what I mean? Because some of these people are just saying, it's my environment, it's what I do, I'm just selling drugs, or it's whatever rhetoric or excuse you want to have. They always have this thing that it's, it was always because of the law. And it's like, if we don't have power in our law enforcement, I don't understand this defunding police. I think, if anything, we need more funding for police to get better training for all these services that you want them to do. We shouldn't cut the police just to give funding somewhere else. The police need the funds, I'm sure. There's some stuff, I'm sure, that's bloated like everything else in government, but our police need to be trained better, not trained worse. And taking resources out of their mouth is going to do that. It's going to.
I think you could find a good middle ground and compromise on this. Maybe instead of defunding the police, we take away their, I don't want to say incentives, but essentially there's no corrective action for bad police officers. And it has a lot to do with police unions. Unions, it really in all aspects, always protect it, not only the good employees, but it protects the bad employees. It protects all employees universally. And it makes it hard to keep people accountable when they know there's going to be no repercussions for their actions.
Yeah, and especially dealing in police officer is like one of the most insane jobs there is. One of probably the hardest job ever, arguably, in some aspects.
I wouldn't want to do it.
We're expecting these guys to go out there 365, 7 days a week, work holidays, overnights, long shifts, be away from their family to make the community a better place, and they're going to get it right every day, be 100% honest and truthful. And I mean, the wares of life. Imagine having a life and being a police officer. Some people barely can work a 9 to 5, and go to work and keep their life under control. I mean, we're asking an awful lot from these people, and the solution isn't to cut funding. If one police officer can't do it, let's hire more police officers. Increase our vetting process, increase training, maybe go through situational training or some of these other things that plenty of other smarter people than me have proposed, and I don't think it would hurt.
What do you think about the idea of once you're the way it is now, from my understanding, once you're trained and essentially given the go-ahead, you're kind of a police officer until you decide to retire. What if what if there was some kind of I don't want to say re-licensing, but what if you had to go through and get reaffirmed every so often instead of it just you're good to go and good luck?
Yeah, I mean, you could argue about the militarization of cops now, so I don't want to say it this way, but special forces train like a third of their time. They train for deployment. Why don't cops train a third of the time that they're there? You know, every month go for a week of training.
And
or, 10 hours of training every month go. I mean, there's no reason why they don't train more.
I'm going to assume the answer is lack of
on their time.
I'm going to assume the answer is lack of manpower.
Yeah, imagine trying to be a cop right now. They call the shit, all the stuff weighted politically, but I'm sure that there's plenty of precincts that are like they can't get people in because of the environment too. Like it goes both ways. It's got to be hard to be a cop, and it's also they probably have a shortage of police officers or people not wanting to get in that line of work because of all this political tension.
I'm assuming bigger cities are having trouble hiring police officers.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to switch gears on something and ask you about it kind of ties into Trump's executive order of slashing federal payroll tax.
I mean, I'm all in on that. That's a no-brainer. Can we talk about how insane the payroll tax is? Just the idea of it.
Got to get money somewhere, right?
Do you know how much you have to
bureaucracy?
Do you know how much you have to pay an employee to pay them like $15 an hour? Like I chose 15 because of this mandatory minimum crap everybody talks about. The employer to pay somebody $15 is not paying somebody $15.
Yeah, they probably pay what, $3 or $4 more bucks on top of that.
Sure. Yeah, and then if you got to have benefits and all types of, I mean, it can go exponentially through the roof from there. Yeah. But you don't. If you're paying somebody $15, you're not paying somebody $15. You're paying somebody $18. And the government says, "Thanks for hiring this employee. I'm going to take $3 off the top." You want to talk about killing jobs? I mean, why?
And that employee puts groceries in a plastic bag for you.
Sure.
Not discrediting anybody's hard work. I'm just saying.
No, but all jobs have a certain value.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why the minimum wage doesn't work, because certain jobs aren't. That's why we have things like AI technology that are taking over now, registers without cashiers, because the cashier isn't worth what you have to pay them now.
Yeah, because of all these government mandates. You know, it's like argued we don't have a free market economy.
It's not even close.
We have a heavily regulated transaction system. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I brought up the Trump payroll tax because we referenced before that, you know, you can cut all the taxes in the world you want, but until you lower government spending and smaller its size, then we're going to be paying double for this. Like, great, I get more money in my income, in my take home, but what happens at the federal level or the state level when you're just going to have to jack taxes up in whatever, a couple more years, a decade, whatever. You're just kicking this can of debt down the road.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. It's more money now, less money later.
Yeah, factor in inflation. Gold and silver at all-time highs. You know, it's insane.
Do you have any gold or silver?
I don't have any precious metals. As far as like substantial, I have very small pieces. A friend of mine gave me about 5 ounces, or I'm
silver?
sorry, like 5/10 of an ounce or something. You know, very
silver?
small amount. Yeah. He goes every week, and he goes to a place local here, and he just buys like $50 or $20 every week. You know, he's like, I don't have retirement, but I have silver.
Yeah, I was thinking investing in silver. I don't have a lot of silver.
Yeah, a lot of people, you know, that Robinhood app's been blowing up, and people are like giving promo codes that you get more money. And a couple people I know have made, you know, a couple $100 in that Robinhood app with the market low and stuff. And you know, I'm not an economist or how to know the best investing strategy, but I'm glad people are trying, you know, in this turbulent time to try to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
I think this is going to re-engineer our economy. Now, not saying that we're going to get less from trade, but I think services and stuff, monetizable content, I think is going to be at an all-time high after this whole thing works its way through. And I mean stuff shows like this, podcasts, audio books, things of
Yeah.
value. The value of something is going to change. It's going to be like more immediate things like instant helpfulness to your life, like groceries or a service or a trade, like always. But I think some of them other things like takeout food might be a thing of the past shortly. You know.
Why do you say that?
Well, I just think because some of these restaurants aren't going to make it.
Oh, there's a lot of there's a lot that won't, but I don't think the idea of takeout's going to go away.
No, I should have rephrased that. I just think like some of these systems like Grubhub and stuff, like it's kind of like, to me, it's speaking volumes of where we're heading.
Yeah. Well, I think private businesses will find a way to work around this. Do you know
COVID has shown that.
Sure. Do you know who John Taffer is?
Not in particular.
He's got a show on, I don't even have cable, but I think it's on Spike TV. It's called Bar Rescue. And
Okay.
he goes in and he takes failing bars and flips them around and turns them around, and then they become successful, viable businesses. But he had an interview recently with Dave Rubin on Dave Rubin's podcast, and it's a very interesting interview. It's about an hour long, and he talks about all the things that private companies are doing during this COVID thing. And one of the things he talked about, which I found super interesting, was he helped design a robotic kitchen. Now, I don't think it replaces the main chef per se, but it helps so restaurants don't have to have as much labor involved in the back end of the store. But there's a lot of interesting stuff on that. I think it's a good interview. If you're looking for stuff to watch after this, go to Dave Rubin's channel and watch the episode with John Taffer. It's really solid. But it just hits on all the points that private business will always find a way through hard times if the owners are up to it. You know, if it's a smart, savvy owner, they're going to find a way through it.
Yeah, and those that don't adapt, they die.
Sure, and that's the beauty of capitalism in general.
Yeah, you have instant data, and you know if it's working, because if it's working, you're making a profit. And
Sure.
if it doesn't work, you lose money, and then you dismantle it. It's something the government doesn't do, which is, you know, why that, once again, the payroll tax is a double hitter. Trump's great. It's great that, you know, he's going to be able to use that for politics too. Like, oh, I lowered the payroll tax. People are thinking they're getting more money, and they are, but you're really not.
So the only problem with that is
It's
as
this
a
weird
political
mind game.
as a political gain, a lot of business owners are going to see the advantage of the payroll tax, but I don't think a lot of Americans are going to immediately see the benefit of a payroll tax cut.
All right.
Because it's not necessarily going to get to them. I mean, what do we say, 90 days, less than 100 days, whatever it is. It's not going to get to them right there. I mean, in some cases, that's, 9 paychecks or whatever the math is. I mean, it's something that they'll see long term, but in the immediate future, they won't see the benefit of that.
Yeah, what will be like $8 a month?
No, I don't know. I mean, whatever. It depends on a lot of things.
Yeah, and it's the federal, so your state, like a state like New York, has high taxes. It's like, do I even notice that? You know?
Yeah. But the
state like New York,
business owners 100% will notice that right away.
yeah,
That's nice.
yeah, that's probably why he did it, so that he can, you know, once again, that gravitas of bumping his chest with lowering taxes for the small business owner, caring about the average American, with his $400 unemployment, even though Congress couldn't get it done. I think like something that came up was a CNN article that talked about how Trump's so willing to use his power when he has it. And they were referencing about his executive action in dealing with lowering the payroll tax. They're like, you know, he has the authority, but will it stick? And I think it's, once again, it's this duplicity. It's like you point out Trump's, you know, abuse of power, but a guy like Andrew Cuomo, who is basically dictating on the day what is happening, that's not an abuse of power because of a national emergency. It's
whatever they want it to be.
I don't know if we'll ever be able to unspin this political web that has been spun.
Unlikely.
It's dangerous, and that's why I don't think we should make voting easier. We've had all this stuff that has got us here, and I know we talked about how democracy can never be too big, and I can agree with that, but there's got to be some parameters or.
Well, that's what makes us supposedly it's what makes our system better. Is it's not democracy, it's not mob rule, it's a constitutional republic where the people we do elect through a democracy, if you will, have to abide by certain things. The problem hits when they don't abide to them and nobody's there to tell them no. We have constitutional authority to overthrow our government. It's a weird thing, but it's 100% legal. But no one, but no one's going to do it. We got to get that off the table. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, you almost wonder, do we need a modern constitutional convention to kind of reset things? Because now that we have the internet, we're plugged into this crazy system, this apparatus that has operated basically without scrutiny because it's just been able to hide things in backdoor deals in some of these areas, you know, both sides of the aisle. And I just wonder whether it be the Supreme Court wins or the mob rule moving the media and also political candidates to have like these mainline approaches for these social things. Like it's just really, it's so easy to have the opiate for the masses.
Yeah,
it really is. And I wonder if we need like a little bit of a reset. That's kind of what we hope this podcast kind of is just kind of, I don't know, I guess make the case for why we need less government, why we need a smaller one, why we need it to be more manageable, because it's obviously unmanageable in its current state. It's self-destructive, and the average person doesn't care about politics because they don't think it affects their life, but you best believe that those politicians definitely affect your life.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
In terms of a political reset, we kind of want to talk a little bit about election coming up here, and this seems to be a thing that's always coming up, especially in the recent elections. What do you feel about the debate stage? I mean, do you think it's not necessarily, do you think the debate's going to happen? We can talk about that later. But do you think more people should be invited on the debate stage? I mean, we have as of right now, we have 5 viable candidates running for office. One of them is on the ballot, right? 2 of them are on the ballot in most states. I mean, a strong majority of states. I mean, is it time that we start letting other people be heard?
Well, it kind of brings up a couple things, I think, right off the top of my head. I think about 16. How many candidates started on the Republican ticket? 16 or 17 or something?
Oh, it was huge. And I remember thinking that was a lot, and then the DNC this year had even more.
Yeah, and, you know, it kind of made things clunky, but I guess, like, if you can air it out. I think, I don't think why, if someone polls nationally, I think they should be on the stage. Like, if they have any, that's what I think was so important about Jo Jorgensen getting that 1%, right? She hit 1%. So, like, there's obviously a decent amount of people would like to hear her speak.
We posted a question on our Facebook page a while back about what do you think because right now there's certain numbers you have to hit before you can be on the debate stage, and really the numbers are mostly unachievable for a smaller third party. But somebody brought up the idea that if you're on the ballot in enough states that you can have 270 electoral votes nationally, then why are you not allowed on the debate stage? And to me, that is the best question I've heard in a long time.
It's a strong argument for it, instead of worrying about percentage.
Sure. In theory, with all the states she's, and we're not just talking about Jo Jorgensen, I think Howie Hawkins is on enough too, and Kanye West, I don't know, his thing's a disaster, but 2 of these people are on ballots in enough states that they could have 270 votes, electoral votes, which is enough to win the election. So why aren't those people important enough to be heard?
Yeah, they should. There's no reason why they shouldn't open it up. I think it would do good for transparency in government. And even if they didn't get the amount of time as like the main candidates like a Trump or a Biden would get, I think it would still be a good contrast for people to see. And it makes you wonder, like, if those third parties would have higher numbers if they were able to entertain the same space as some of these bigger candidates.
Of course they would, because they'd be getting the media attention, they'd be getting the debate coverage. Those things are going to then propel you even higher. So
yeah,
right now,
but it also goes against the narrative, you know, like this narrative that it's R versus D. You know, when really most people think of the average person as either a Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, like these very clear-cut binary choices we have, when really if a libertarian candidate were to get up there, there'd be plenty that you would agree with her and there'd be some that you would disagree. And then you'd really realize that these parties overlap a lot more than you actually think. And then if we were to have that terminology displayed on us on a debate stage for an hour or two, maybe those parties would die. Republican, Democrat would die quickly. You know, it would be even faster.
Yeah, and that's the case for me too. When we're talking about some of the other candidates, I did have you done I Side With?
I did it in 2016.
Okay, you should do it again. It's always a good time to update. But I did one recently, and I did a video about it. And I think I matched up. I don't remember the exact numbers. I matched up with Howie Hawkins, who's the Green Party candidate, like 6% of the time. Like me and him would apparently throw fists if we ever met each other.
Get these hands.
Joe Biden was like 8% or 10%. It was some small number. The Rock was on there, who's not even running, which is interesting. It was like 14%. Apparently, we'd only agree on Fast and the Furious movies.
What, that they're terrible?
Yeah. The first one was decent.
I'll give them the first three.
Except for like the Peterbilt 16-speed transmissions they were driving. But then we talked.
Why is there all this shifting?
At the top, there was Trump at 92% and Jorgensen at 90%. And I think a lot of people would probably agree with Joe Jorgensen more than they think they would.
Well, do you think people think freedom is scary? When you propose the alternative, right? Like the war on drugs, you'd be like, "God, just make drugs legal." And like what that really is bringing a notion to is that it would end the war on drugs, and then we could start dismantling all of the negative things that came from it: civil asset forfeiture, some of these nonviolent offenders being locked up and then getting caught in the criminal system justice wheel that we have. And then like I think like, you know, because once again it's this binary thing that people forget that gray area between legal drugs and illegal drugs and all drugs legal, there's a huge gray area, and it'd be like a gradient. It would take years to get there.
So that's
like
one of the
unwinding.
That's one of the questions, and I've put in. We've talked about this behind the scenes, but for people who don't know, we've put in an official media request for Spike Cohen, who's the Libertarian Party vice presidential candidate, and Joe Jorgensen, who is the Libertarian Party presidential candidate. We've put in an official media request to have them on the show, and that's one of the questions I wanted to ask them: is why is it so hard to sell the idea of freedom or liberty? Because the Libertarian Party is, I mean, I don't want to say they're a joke because that's going too far, but they haven't done well. I mean, no third party has done well. It's not just them. And why is that? That's a question I feel like I would love to hear their answer to.
Well, let's bring up just the quickest, hottest debate on liberty. This second is the mask thing. Once again, you fall into two camps. There's not an overlay. You know, there's not many people that understand both sides of it and be like, I respect both of your decisions. Mm-hmm. You know, like a rational adult. We're on this fix. We're on this, like, if you don't wear a mask, you're killing people. And if you do wear a mask, you're subservient and you just will do anything the government tells you.
Yeah. When,
once again, most people probably fall into a blend of both of those ideas smashed together. Are 99% of all people. The average person. And it's just like, it's not packaged that way. It's not packaged to them that, you know, liberty seems more sexy than it seems safe, and I think that's the problem with it. Like, people think the more freedom we have, the more dangerous the world would be, which I would argue the opposite. Mm-hmm. In a lot of times.
So the mask thing for me, like, I don't know how you fall on this. It's very similar to vaccines for me. I will gladly wear a mask and I will have vaccines and whatever. But I hate the idea of a government requirement because it takes away somebody's choice.
Yeah, it's a great point, and I would align more like that as well. And I would even go a step further and just say, basically, the mask thing is really just teaching you that you can't rely on other people to keep you safe and also maintain your standard of living. Like, no matter what it is in your life, nobody's going to solve that for you. You have to go and do it. You have to take the personal responsibility. And I would just argue that we need all people to start taking that more over in their life. We need to stop thinking that society is the blanket that keeps you safe and realize that it's really at the individual level, you know, as far as families even. You know, the smaller something is, the easier it is to control. Yeah. And I know the world is a big place, but at some point you need to be worried about what you're doing every day to keep yourself safe and keep your lifestyle afloat, then society do it for you. And I think that goes with everything, whether it be welfare programs or job programs or whatever it is, masks, vaccines, all of that. I mean, if it works, great. If you don't want to take it, great. But, I'm not going to try to justify me condemning you because I have some virtue because I did something the government suggested. Like, I don't agree with that either.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, it's just and a lot of like gun owners feel that way. Once again, it's the thing that got me politically active. But in all of my time I've spent in that facet of America's society, it's really just stressed the level of self-reliance. And not saying that I've cut myself from the grid because that's not the case, but I look at more things locally than I would nationally, I would say.
Yeah. Well, that's a big part of the reason I don't like big government and I hate globalism. The higher up you go, the more people you have to control, the messier it gets.
Globalism is a good point to bring up right now. I think this should be our closing out topic for the video today.
Yeah.
The stuff with China. Do you think anything's going to happen before the election? And do you think I saw an article that said yesterday that Russia's trying to get Trump elected and China's trying to get Biden elected. So I just kind of wanted your 2 cents on that.
What stuff specifically with China? Just
more of the need of that. Like, I mean, Trump's put us in trade wars. He's also signed trade deals. We've had to deal with tariffs. I just think more or less that this ever-growing thing that China seems to be doing, and it's, William Barr came out a few weeks ago and said that they're basically practicing modern colonialism. They're invading other countries. They're performing economic warfare and amongst other things. And I went down a rabbit hole the other night of the trade imbalance between the two countries, and we trade a lot of things to China.
Sure.
We make plenty of money off of them. The term of stealing our jobs and stuff, they did take our factory work, but it's also let other areas of our industries thrive when, we didn't have to worry about pollution. And I guess it's just a long-winded way of saying of like, I don't know what politician to trust with it. Yeah.
I guess to the point of if anything is going to happen with China, I'd be shocked if anything happened from now until November with China. Anything major. I just don't see it happening. Nothing huge. But maybe it does. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Trump sees himself sliding in some swing states and he thinks that's a way to get the blue-collar people back on board is by doing something major with China. I don't know.
Yeah, have you looked at any numbers of the swing states lately?
Everything I've seen, and again, I mean, it's 2016 all over again, but everything I see is Trump's polling way behind. And I find that extremely hard to believe. I mean, Joe Biden is probably the worst candidate I've seen probably since Trump and Hillary Clinton in 2016. I mean, he's horrible. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what to expect with it all. It's like you said, 16 all over again. And I remember waking up that morning and it showed that Trump had a 1% chance of victory.
Yeah.
And the guy ends up winning. Obviously, there's a lot of scrutiny to that, but with the Russiagate and everything else, it's amazing that once again that these radical, progressive, extreme points of view have become main Democratic talking points.
Mm-hmm.
But I really am hoping for the Joe Jorgensen interview. I hope that can actually pan out. That would be a nice addition.
I would love to have her on. I'd definitely love to have Spike on too. Spike Cohen. For people who don't know Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen is extremely articulate. I mean, he's incredible.
And that's the VP pick for Joe Jorgensen.
That's the VP pick. And Joe Jorgensen, I mean, she's no dummy. I mean, she's got a PhD. And
she's a doctor, very bright woman.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a variety of interviews of her trying to really get her down as far as her mind state. She seems rather reasonable, even if some of her ideas seem radical.
Sure. And again, with all candidates, I don't agree with any of them 100% of the time, but it'd be good to have different voices on. I'd like to have her on.
Yeah, I think she would do good. It'd be cool to see a third party on a debate stage. I know last election cycle, the Libertarian candidates, like John McAfee and stuff, they were actually able to debate on national television.
Yeah, I don't know. Stossel. Was it John Stossel? Stossel had a debate for them. I don't remember how it was televised. If it was televised or live stream or whatever.
Yeah,
he
the
had
good
him
old
on.
Johnson was on there too.
I will say, if any year you wouldn't want to have a third-party candidate on, it would have been 2016 because Gary Johnson, he would have got absolutely annihilated by Donald Trump.
It was one of my questions I have posed for Joe if she's on. I want to ask her about foreign policy because most libertarians are laissez-faire, hands-off. They don't want to get involved in foreign policy. But like to me, like the stuff with China and all the stuff that has been coming out about them and their thieving of intellectual property and they just don't care about human rights. I don't think we need
copyright violations and all of that.
Yeah, just all the stuff that we can prove that they steal from us in all of our other sectors. It's like, would you just let this go, or would this be like a thing that you would try to talk with them? Because there's no reasoning. I don't believe there's any reasoning with those type of countries because it's ingrained in their ideology at the highest levels of government. These people are obviously dictatorial. These people are obviously communist, and they don't care. They don't share our values, and they don't think like us. So any kind of rational, reasonable explanation that you think you're going to have with them is a Western view, and it's not going to. They only care about money and they care about control, you know. And that's like, I think some people, because it always seems like we jump back and forth, like we're aggressive in war and then we're not. Like George Bush was all for war, Obama was against war, even if Obama did, you know, do.
He was against
things.
Sure, yeah, he was against it on paper.
Yeah, but, you know, it's like this, once again, binary thing. It's like just goalposts that we keep bouncing in between. And, like, the libertarians kind of like, well, I don't want any of it. And they're like, oh, my God, you know, bring our troops home. And, like, I don't even know if the world could withstand something like that if we were to just shut up the doors all over the place. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had today. I appreciate everybody tuning in and watching. This is Ryan and Dave from December 1773. It's our weekly podcast. Once again, subscribe, like, comment, share on our YouTube and our Facebook page at December 1773. If you like the video, share the video. You can go ahead and, if you'd be so kind, you could do a donation and we'll send you a free gift. Some house-made stickers.
Literally house-made.
House printed. Dave's print stickers like the United States prints money in their basement.
Living room. But...
Close enough. But yeah, I appreciate anybody that watches and sticks around for the whole thing. Comment if you want to see a certain topic or something covered. The Joe Jorgensen interview is all up in the air. We're kind of waiting on her people. It's a little inside baseball, but there's questions. If we get the interview, you guys will definitely know about it, and we'll have plenty of posts dealing with questions you want asked. At this point, we plan on shooting next week as well for the weekly podcast, and we'll have more current events probably. Maybe we'll cover something else, but as of right now, that's what's on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I like it. We will be back. We're going to have, well, if you're watching this, when you're watching this, you will know that we've already had 2 this week. But we had to have a makeup show. And then next week we'll be back to 1.
Yeah, our figure we rock them out so we're current. But, yeah, we're just going to keep shooting these every week. Any suggestions for the show would always be appreciated as well. We're kind of, once again, this is a format in progress. So I'm an amateur host and Dave's the amateur producer. So we're just trying to make it kind of work here.
I like it. All right,
brother. I'll talk to you, man.
Perfect. See ya.
Peace, man.
See ya.